Hello, and welcome to the Diversity Matters Podcast brought to you by HispanicPro, the Hispanic Professional Network. Join us as we have conversations with subject matter experts about the Latino workforce, the Hispanic market opportunity, entrepreneurship, and many more topics of interest to Latino professionals in the U.S. The Diversity Matters Podcast comes to you from the great city of Chicago and markets across the United States that are making strides in creating diverse, equitable, and inclusive environments for Latinos to grow and prosper in their careers and businesses. My name is Alfonso Barrera, and I am your host for the Diversity Matters Podcast. Let's begin. In episode 3 of the HispanicPro Diversity Matters Podcast, we are in Chicago for our second Trailblazers discussion panel to celebrate Women's History Month on March 23rd, 2022. Our featured guests are Ennedy Rivera, Commissioner, the Office of Commission on Equity and Inclusion for the State of Illinois; Kenya Merritt, Chief Small Business Officer for the City of Chicago Business Affairs and Consumer Protection Office; Hannah Fernandez, Chairwoman, the Chicago Chapter of SCORE; Sharon Garcia, Vice President of Talent Acquisition for Echo Global Logistics; Paulina Martinez, Director of Business Development for World Business Chicago; Marcela, Cartagena, Chief of Staff for the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce; and our moderator for the discussion panel, Alexandra Turcios, Solutions Consultant, Adobe. Join us in listening to the insightful and dynamic conversation about work, life, and inspiring advice from our Chicago featured guests.
What I will add to that too, and it kind of goes back to what you said earlier, was the importance of that peer relationship, but even going beyond that, because I know I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I know there's a lot of people out there that have a lot more knowledge around some things that I don't have. And some of the organic relationships that I think I have built in my career have been some of those peer relationships. Like, we're in this together, and I've witnessed some pretty amazing things from peers of mine that I truly admire. And I may have just known them on a professional level, but because they've demonstrated something that inspired me, it just, that's how I kind of draw a connection to both their experience and just kind of, how much it resonates. And that's kind of how I've organically grown some of my network, is really through the people that I surround myself with, and taking those opportunities to really highlight some things that you thought somebody said that was pretty incredible, pretty inspiring, or just an aha moment in a meeting. But it wants you to, it just really inspires you to want to know more about their skill sets, right? You have a strength, I don't have that strength, I'd love to learn from you. And so that is another way, I think, to look at networking as not necessarily a formality, because it can be a little nerve-wracking, right, sometimes. And so sometimes it's just sitting right in front of you, and it's just taking advantage of those opportunities in front of you as well.
Just to add on to that, I would also say not to complicate the situation. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's just going to coffee, right? You don't have to do lunch, you don't have to do dinner. Coffee in the middle of a day, when you just need to walk away from things, is enough, to start building that relationship with somebody. So keep it simple, don't make it too complicated. And then from there, you can start building your conversations with them, start building your relationships with them, until such time that it really grows into something that is beneficial.
So the common thread here is caring for other people, investing time in other people, and you'll get that in return, I think, is the moral of the story here. So let's transition to another topic. Like we said, Women's History Month. So how do you all take the onus upon you to support and promote other women in your field, and elevate them and provide that sponsorship? Can you talk about a few examples where you've been able to do that and see good results? And Paulina, we'll kick it to you.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's a really, really important one. And just kind of going back to the first question of the importance of building your your board of directors, which is something that I was taught very early on, right? Not just having one person, but having multiple people. So I've been fortunate that I've always had like a good network of not only women, but other men in my life that have been part of my board of directors. So I've always believed in paying it forward. And I do that in a couple different ways, right? First, like participating in any like events where like I can review resumes or do mock interviews or be like a mentorship program where I can mentor younger women or women who are going through like grad school right now, even if like a lot of the times I've actually been paired with women that are older than me. And it feels sometimes a little bit awkward because I'm like, well, what can I realistically teach this person that is older than me? But you know, they're very appreciative of like the knowledge that I can provide because I already went through that program for graduate school specifically. And at work, whenever I have the chance to, you know, like run into, especially the younger women, like in the kitchen or like, you know, if we run into each other in the bathroom, you know, like having those genuine conversations with them to get to know them, right? What are their aspirations? What are their interests? And whenever I can make a connection of, okay, so you're interested in UX design, you know, like I heard that there's gonna be a position opening up in that specific area. You should totally apply and let me know if I can be a resource to you or, you know, list me as a contact or a reference. So just trying to really make yourself available to the best of your ability and make that genuine connection with them.
And one of the things that I want to say is, you know, really look around to see if anybody around you really shows promise or someone that's really striving hard, but then sometimes they may not see their own greatness or other opportunities. So seek those things out. I'm always looking around for emerging leaders, or I'm taking notes. You know, I would totally go ahead and bring her up with me, or I would go ahead and avoid that person just because, you know, this person exhibited certain traits. So when you go ahead and mentor and when you go ahead and meet someone, you want to make sure that authentically you also give your best foot forward. And so as much as we all want to go ahead and, you know, connect with people that are more successful than us, people who have walked the paths that we wanted to do, remember that as you climb up the ladder of success, you also look down and lift up somebody who was like you, right? Because all of us began somewhere years ago, but someone believed in us, right? And so you want to make sure that you go ahead and do that. Really, really look around. And a good example for that is when I first started as chairwoman of SCORE Chicago, the organization, it's, you know, predominantly older white males. And the beautiful thing about them is that they really went ahead and embraced the diversity. So that's one of the things that I had to break, right, in terms of barriers, is they looked at me and granted, a lot of the people that I lead, these are highly successful businessmen and women that Kenya and Alfonso can attest to. They have built multiple multi-million-dollar businesses, and I walk in leading them, right? And so one of the things that I have to do right away is, you know, first I got to also make sure that I deliver impact, but then I was really intentional about making sure that I put women, that I put minorities in different positions of leadership, because this is where when we started walking around the city and people would look at us and say, oh my God, you're SCORE Chicago, there's somebody walking in and you're a female, he's Latino. And so we're really changing things, and we all have what it takes to go ahead and lift up one another. And you could attest to that, Kenya and Alfonso.
Totally, and I would just add that, like, as leaders, as people that sit in positions to be able to make decisions, that we owe it to others to be intentional about supporting and bringing others up along that path with us. And so mentorship and identifying people that can step into leadership roles, I think is just a part of what we should do when we have the ability to do it.
I definitely agree. Like, I think there's a lot, you know, in terms of how important it is to be able to see someone's gifts and their potential before they even realize they have potential is a really powerful thing, because it really allows you to be able to elevate the talent, whether it's talent directly underneath you or talent within the organization that you have, or whether it's girls that need some coaching around, to build their own personal confidence, right? I mean, there's just a lot of things, and when I think about just even women in my organization or women that I've interacted with in my career, there's just so many things I've learned about myself that I want to be able to offer that piece of advice, because somebody gave it to me, and it changed the trajectory of my career. And and it comes from a good place, and it's honest, and it comes from a place of like, I really want you to succeed. And as women, sometimes we get in the way of ourselves, right? And to be able to have just a real conversation around some of those things, and kind of step away from some of the superficial things around performance, because I think sometimes somebody's performance is based on their own self-confidence. And so it's like trying to crack the nut a little bit and trying to uncover that, that lack of confidence that they may have, and giving them the gift of, feeling good about themselves, and trusting their own guts, and those kinds of things, so that they can help themselves rise a little bit. It's so key. And sometimes you have to break some of those barriers down and just have some real discussions, and and make sure that you're coming from a place of, this is a place of love, right? Like, we want to help each other out, and I know you can do some great things. You just have to get some things out of your way, right? Get out of your way, get out of your own head. So that's what I would say is like probably my most powerful moments, is when somebody gave that to me, but I feel very fulfilled if I can give that to someone else.
So tell us about some of the challenges that you face. We talked about a potential confidence gap in women, which I can definitely attest and confirm that I felt that in my career, especially early on. What are some other challenges that you might have faced in your career, and if you can tell us how you overcame them, that would be great. And we'll start with Ennedy.
Of course. I think, so early on in my career, some of the biggest challenges I had was, so everyone knows I'm an attorney, I had judges tell me to go back to the law firm to tell the partner to come into court, even though I was the attorney. So that really, when the first time that happened, that really made me see what arena I was entering into, and how to manage that. My partner, the law firm, was like, no, you go back in there. Like, next court date, you're going in there. Like, and if you need to call me, you call me. Like, you're gonna do this. And I've always had men in my life who have always pushed me outside of my comfort zone, and that has always helped me in my career. And I am grateful for them because of that, because as an attorney, there's only like 2% that are Latinos in that arena. So imagine your own arena and where you're in, and the lack of diversity that there is, and the lack of Latinos in those arenas as well. We all know each other. Like, every Latino who's an attorney pretty much knows each other in the state of Illinois. So it's encouraging when you have somebody else who's like really backing you on things. And I have stories of things that happened, but that's how my career actually started. Yeah, definitely. They definitely made me into a stronger person.
When I have a similar story, but not in law, but in journalism. When I worked in a newspaper business in Mississippi, I went to Mississippi State University. I became a journalist. English became my passion. I was obsessed with it, and I was obsessed with editing and writing. So I joined the second largest newspaper in Mississippi as a copy editor and a reporter. And then I worked really hard, and they noticed me, and they gave me a promotion to be a copy desk chief. The copy desk chief was the person in charge of the presentation of the paper, making sure that there were no misspelled headlines and the paper looked good. And I had a team of 7 copy editors, and they were all men and white from the South and older than me. So I was the younger Latina and a woman. It was a moment in my life that I started to I started to doubt myself. And I started to have that I have impostor syndrome. And I was like, can I really do this? Am I really a good editor? And then I just had to figuratively and literally keep my head high and just really believe in what I was doing and be a leader for them. So it took me a while to earn their trust, to believe in me, my leadership skills. And after several months, it worked out. We became a very strong team. We became the fastest growing paper in Mississippi. We won national awards, and we kicked ass. So when you face an adversity, I think that you have 2 options. One is to keep going, and another one is to not keep going. So you have that option and see how you're going to face that adversity, how you're going to face that challenge. It's up to you. So I chose to ignore the comments in the beginning and just be strong and smile and just make it happen.
Yeah, thank you. One of the challenges that I faced was realizing how statistics really affect you. So that's the statistic that women of color get paid less is very real. In my previous job, I realized that even though I was told constantly that I was the highest ranking junior staff member, I was paid like an entry-level employee, and I was working anywhere from 12 to 16 hours a day, doing duties outside of my job description, which included translations, interpretations, and that's I'm not certified to do that. I like to say that I'm qualified, but I'm definitely not certified. And getting to the point where I had to decide how I was going to advocate for myself, right? Because that was a very nerve-wracking point in my life, because I didn't want to upset my boss. I didn't want to rock the boat. But I knew that I was at a point where I deserved more money, and that it wasn't fair that I was getting paid an entry-level salary when I was doing all this other work, right? So, it got to the point that, I asked multiple times, I started advocating for myself. Unfortunately, nothing came of it for a while until it did. But then at that point, things evolve, right? And sometimes situations can become kind of toxic. And at that point, you have to make a decision of how much, how worth it is to keep going with the situation. A veces nos quedamos ahí porque dice, por mis pantalones me quedo aquí and I'm gonna make it work. But sometimes it's just not worth it. Not for your mental health, not for your physical health, not for your career, right? And sometimes you just have to go out there and explore what else is out there, but you always have to advocate for yourself.
Absolutely, and I think you bring up a great topic around mental health and work-life integration, so I'd love to hear from the ladies. What strategies have you used to have a better work-life integration? Kenya, we'll start with you.
That's a great question, and I don't know that I figured it out yet. But what I will say, the beauty about the pandemic is that it has allowed a lot of people to take a step back and to evaluate your quality of life, what you enjoy, what you want to experience, what you want to have as an experience professionally. And so for me, I'm allowing myself to explore that, whereas I will say pre-pandemic was very much focused on my work and doing an exceptional job. I'm very passionate about helping people, sometimes to a fault, where I feel like I do a disservice to myself by not pouring back into myself and making time for myself. And so I'm still exploring that, but I will say that one of the ways that for me that I'm learning to pour back into myself is by writing. And so daily at the end of the day, I'll take time out just to jot down just my thoughts, my ideas, things that I would love to make time to do, like roller skating and reading and taking a vacation. And hopefully I'll get to the point where I'll be able to do more of those things. But yeah, I'm still exploring that, but I think now I have at least the thoughts around making sure that I make time for myself.
Yeah, there's days where really there's no work-life balance, and as professionals and especially entrepreneurs, we all have to go ahead and be comfortable with that, being uncomfortable. And so one of the things that really keeps me focused is I make sure that I really play to my strengths. So I focus on what I do best, and I surround myself with really incredible people who are better than me in things that I'm not really weak at or in things I don't enjoy. And so I've learned how to say no to a lot of things. So if something isn't either making me money, if something isn't making me grow, or something isn't making me happy, then I'll go ahead and just bow out and say no to that. And so, but there are other people, if you really look and pay attention to your team, there's gonna be people that actually enjoy stuff that you don't like, but they love it, right? So one of the things that you wanna do is surround yourself. I always surround myself by design. My niece, my nephew, my sister are here today, and so they know that every single person in my life are designed to be there because there's so many incredible people. So you want to make sure that you connect to those people, and also go ahead and delegate those responsibilities to those other people, and also give them a chance to shine, and then everybody wins.
We both look at each other like.
It's really quickly, my sister's here too. She's an architect, and I'm so proud of her. She's also a businesswoman, so I'm excited that she's here. I think it's gonna be nothing. One thing that I think is important for my mental health, I'm proud to say that I have a therapist. I see a therapist. We talk once a week. I'm not ashamed of it. I think that our mental health is important. When you have an issue, talk about it. Don't keep it to yourself. Please, just talk about it. And also, just like routines are very important to me. I wake up super early, around 5:45, 5:50 a.m. Do my little yoga. I don't have children, so I have a cat. He wakes me up anyway. So, but it's important to keep that routine and to stay healthy. That doesn't mean that I'm always that good every day. Sometimes I go out and I go stay out late. It's not my day, but no, but it's the routine is important for our mental health and our physical health as well, to do a good job the next day.
And I would definitely agree with that, in terms of checking on yourself. I am a work in progress. Every day is about how can I achieve work-life harmony. But, I think it's a couple things for me. It is giving myself more perspective around the things that stress me out. So how big of a deal is this, right? And just a little bit more forgiveness of myself in the process, right? Because I think, I can be type A, and I am my worst critic. And I can be very tough on myself. I look at my boss because she knows. But I think, the process of going through hard things sometimes, that process of letting go and just taking a deep breath, exhaling it out, and just realizing and giving yourself perspective that, is this a big deal? Or how can I overcome this tomorrow? Because today I'm gonna rest, right? So it's just kind of checking yourself, because I think the problems are still going to be heavy. Things are still going to stress you out. Your life is going to do its own thing and be unpredictable. But I think it's like I just have to take a pause and give myself perspective that this can't be the hardest thing of my life, right? This is just hard today, but it won't be hard tomorrow, right? So I think it's just, we run a lot as women. We carry multiple hats, and it can be very difficult, but like, I think it's really important to just check in on yourself and then giving others permission to see that vulnerability, that you are human, you don't have to be a robot in your career, that like, stuff happens and life gets in the way, and you know, it's just really important to also give others permission to see that, so that they realize like, hey, I don't have to be perfect, right? And be successful, right? You don't have to achieve perfection and be successful at the same time. It doesn't equal each other. That the road to success is actually filled with a lot of failures, but also a lot of like, you know, wins, because and things that you've learned to overcome and grow from that experience. So that's kind of, I've come to that realization throughout the pandemic that like I just need to make sure that I give myself perspective.
For me, the pandemic really made me realize what brought me joy. And for me, what brings me joy is actually hanging out with my friends. They're actually here. But what's unique about my work and life balance is that my friends make me realize how to be happy. And it's the little things that we do, like having dinner together, or going to the movies together, or checking up on each other. Really like makes me realize that all the hard work that I'm doing at work to try to make myself elevate myself, like they'll always see me as the person that, and we've known each other since college. They'll always see me as the college girl who was struggling. And that really grounds me, because it does bring me a lot of joy to know that they always have my back, no matter what.
So there's a couple lessons we can pull out of this, in addition to being resilient and advocating for yourself and creating boundaries and sacred space to celebrate yourself and ground yourself in your why, and in what makes you feel joy. I would love to hear from the panel, and we'll start with Hannah. Tell us about what drives you. What's your why? What brings you joy?
So, there's a lot of things that bring me joy, and one of them is really making sure that I fulfill my own purpose. And my purpose is to make sure that I inspire other people to make sure that they go ahead and really use their talents to make our communities better. And that's one of the reasons why I'm working with SCORE, because one of the things that's really fulfilling about that for me and that brings me joy is that one, I'm leading a lot of incredible and also highly successful businessmen and women. And so what really binds all of us is that, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of them have built multi-million-dollar businesses, and the other half of us are former CEOs, CFOs of big corporations. But what binds us together is we all want to drive impact. Impact meaning that we want to create jobs, we want to start businesses. So in leading them, first to inspire them to give their all every single day, and because I remind them that you're all here to leave a legacy, right? You've attained success, but now what drives us is to really leave that legacy. And the second part is really making sure that the entrepreneurs here in the city of Chicago, we give them hope. This past couple of years has been so challenging for many of us, and sometimes the clients that would come to us from the south sides or the west sides of Chicago, when they come to us, we may be the first mentor they've ever come across in their whole life. So to them, that is such a life changer. And so when I see somebody, so a good example is a couple high school students, college students came to SCORE with an idea to sell tea. 10 years later, current day, they sold over $54 million worth of tea. And they said that they couldn't have done that without mentorship. So mentorship is one of the things that really drive me, because I know that when you help an entrepreneur, you're not helping that one person, you're helping their family. They're giving back to the neighborhoods in Chicago, and now we're really creating jobs as well. So I'm very happy to share with all of you this past year, we've mentored over 1,700 aspiring entrepreneurs and small business owners. We started 300 small businesses, and created over 412 jobs, and that makes me really fulfilled and happy.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of things that make me happy, and that's something that the pandemic helped me realize. For once, my family, they bring me so much joy, and they're my driver, especially because my husband has a bad habit of eating 3 times a day. So I gotta work hard for that. No, but all joking aside, thinking about the fact that, like my grandma, who was born in 1949 in Mexico, when she was born, she still did not have the right to vote. Thinking about all those women, and that up until not that long ago, women were encouraged to go to school, to finishing school, to be homemakers. And not that there's anything wrong with being a homemaker, but if that was the only option that we had, that's sad. So that's one of the biggest drivers for me, right? I don't know, whenever I'm in the dumps, I think about that. I'm like, tienes que hacerlo por todas las mujeres que pelearon para que tuvieras una educación y para que pudieras votar. So just keep at it. So to me, that's what it is.
Well, I'll just add. And so for me, I think my why is rooted in my identity, and my identity. Well, she mentioned her grandmother. I have to mention my grandmother. It's rooted in, my grandmother and what she did for our family, and how she migrated from the South, and what she was able to do as a single mom of 7, and the legacy that she left behind. And so for me, my why is creating communities and neighborhoods throughout the city that are worthy of the work that she did in migrating for a better life for her family, for her kids. And a lot of the work that I've done over the past 20 years have been in a variety of sectors throughout the city of Chicago, but this work around economic development and supporting entrepreneurs that can truly give back to creating a vibrant neighborhoods and communities. Very passionate about helping and supporting those that are committed to doing that work. So my why is making sure that her legacy lives on, and that communities that I grew up in and I currently live in are equal to other communities here in Chicago.
I grew up in Chile in the dictatorship of Luis Pinochet, 16 years. We didn't have the right to vote, I grew up in fear, pretty much. So we came to the United States and we lived the dream, right? We went to college and everything. So I'm deeply grateful, and I come to work every day with a smile on my face, thinking how lucky I am. And it brings me joy to work up in the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Our mission is very much like SCORE Chicago. Our mission, our bottom line, is to help small businesses thrive and succeed. And when we get phone calls from Latinos and Latinas saying, "Thank you so much, man. Thank you for helping with the technical assistance to get that grant. We got it," and that brings me joy. When I come to the office, and I don't have to worry much about what they're doing because everybody's doing their own thing. There's my team. Yeah! They work so hard, and they're so focused, and I couldn't be prouder of them. We're a family, we're a familia, and I'm just so deeply grateful for the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
For me, my why is my family. I came here when I was 2, so I'm an immigrant in that sense. And so I think that journey and that sense of purpose of wanting to build a better life for your children and sacrificing a lot, leaving a lot behind, to be able to do that is really drives my purpose to be able to do that for my own children, right? As they grow up, when they're in the workplace, I want the workplace to be better for them, right? But expanding beyond that, the next generation. And that, we are fighting a lot of the things, that we're trying to do, trying to achieve, trying to break the mold around is really built around the next generation living into that, right? We'll see a portion of that, but I feel that the next generation benefits from that and then continue to grow. So I think it really does come from, wanting better for others, wanting better for the community. I lived in the north side of the city. Lots of, people in my neighborhood that migrated from other countries, and a lot of their children getting together. Really, I remember translating a lot of things for my parents, right? So their success was my success at a very young age, and I think it's really important for me, at least, to see a different kind of world for the next generation.
And my why is actually my grandmothers. They sacrificed so much when they came. So I'm of Puerto Rican descent, and my grandmother used to pick tobacco in Puerto Rico. My dad came here and he brought his whole family here. My mom, when she came, it was because my grandfather was in the Navy. So I grew up in Waukegan, and there weren't that many Latinos there. And everything that I have done has been to not only uplift my family and always make them proud. My grandmothers made sure that only the women in the family got educated, because they had already known that the men were always going to get the jobs and they were always going to get paid. So only the women in my family are educated, and it's what drives me every single day to continue on my path and to always make sure that I'm giving back to my community in Waukegan as well as here in Chicago.
Wow, well, it's already 7 o'clock. So thank you, ladies, so much. I hope everyone in the audience got nuggets of advice and are going to leave feeling inspired and like you can take actionable steps after leaving this event tonight. We do have another hour or so of networking, so I encourage you all to speak with the panelists after if you have any questions. I just want to thank you all for coming out for Women's History Month. Thank you so much. Despite the rain, we made it out. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it to Alfonso for closing remarks.
Thank you, Alexandra, for the great job of moderating. Can I get a big round of applause for Alexandra? Thank you for joining us today. To learn more about Hispanic Pro and our resources, such as dates for upcoming Hispanic Pro in-person networking events across the United States, the Hispanic Pro Jobs Board, utilized by 250 plus companies dedicated to hiring diverse talent, upcoming podcast episodes, and more, please visit us at HispanicPro.com. If you found this podcast helpful, please share it with your work colleagues and friends via the associated social share buttons. Until next time, cheers and be well.